I'm going to start this video with a very important disclaimer. The Happening is bad. Like, really bad. And seeing as I spend a good portion of my life defending a movie about two men swapping faces, you can trust me when I say that every step of this movie is baffling. The acting, the story, the title? Nearly every aspect of the movie, you would have thought someone on the crew would have stopped in place and asked, wait, what the f are we doing? But I've always had a philosophy when it comes to movies. The worst thing a movie can be is forgettable. Your Conan the Barbarians, your I Am Number 4s, your Green Lanterns, all movies that everyone would consider bad, but are missing any real spark of creativity and passion to really stick in people's minds. The Happening is not that. From the mind of M. Night Shyamalan, The Happening is what would happen if you wanted to create an apocalypse movie, but accidentally spent all of your budget to get Mark Wahlberg. The movie begins by setting the tone of what you can expect for the rest of the film. Two women in Central Park have an increasingly bizarre conversation with each other, while people all around them start committing suicide. It sets an eerie tone, not just because of the violence seemingly happening all around these women, but also because the actresses react to this mayhem with the same enthusiasm one would have if they just found out their second favorite brand of laundry detergent were on sale. We then cut to Wahlberg, playing high school teacher Elliot Moore, as he and the rest of the city try to make sense of what has happened in New York, as rashes of suicide begin to take place across the city. If this already sounds far-fetched, remember that this is the same universe where people trust Mark Wahlberg to teach their children anything. I really don't know what subject he's supposed to be teaching, but dear lord do I hope it's not science. This is an interaction he has with his students when he asks them to hypothesize why bees are disappearing.
I mean, science will come up with some reason to put in the books, but in the end it'll be just a theory. I mean, we will fail to acknowledge that there are forces at work beyond our understanding. To be a good scientist, you must have a respectful awe for the laws of nature. Jake?
Now, I'm no teacher, but my gut instinct tells me the proper response to teaching the budding minds of the next generation isn't going, I don't know, it's probably magic. When news spreads through the school of the tragedy that just occurred in New York, Elliot rushes home to his wife, Alma, played by Zooey Deschanel. Now, I want to preface this. Zooey Deschanel is a good actress. When given the right material and direction, she is able to give depth to roles that would have been rather one-dimensional, and is able to balance quirky self-deprecation with honest heart and emotion. I start with this only because it seems like M. Night Shyamalan hypnotized her into starring in this movie, and then forgot how to turn it off. Most of her role consists of staring blankly off into the distance, and whenever she is tasked with reacting to more serious scenes, she still comes across as awkward and unsettling. And this is saying something, as, again, her husband is Mark Wahlberg playing a high school teacher. Seriously, why do you have a Robert Frost quote on the board? What subject are you teaching? Anyways, as news spreads of the mysterious deaths happening across the state, the Moores decide that their best bet is to play it safe and head south, meeting the Moores' friend and colleague, Julian, and his daughter. They make their way south via train, and tensions start to rise, not only due to the mysterious deaths, but also growing tensions between Elliot and Alma. Is their marriage at risk? Is Alma having a mysterious affair? Don't worry. If nothing else, this movie provides answers to all of its questions, even if those answers turn out to be monumentally stupid. Their escape is foiled when the train stops, with the conductor informing the passengers that they have lost contact with all of their connecting stations, meaning their escape route south may not have been as safe as they hoped. Their suspicions are confirmed when the local news tells them that they are in fact surrounded by these mysterious suicides. Julian decides to split from the group and try and find his wife in Princeton, and the remaining three hitch a ride with a local couple. Now, I will give the movie this. Up until this point, it has actually managed to weave an interesting mystery. Sure, the dialogue is weird and exposition heavy, characters are emoting in weird ways, Mark Wahlberg is just doing Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, guys. Nothing.
but the movie has still managed to keep tensions high, and some of the scenes where the waves of death start to occur are legitimately unsettling. Shyamalan has managed to blend an apocalypse movie, with survivors having to band together off the grid to try and figure out what's going on, with a legitimate horror movie, playing with the audience's fear by giving them an existential threat that they legitimately don't understand. It's an effective piece of writing, right up until Shyamalan decides that the audience has had enough mystery and just explains the entire thing. Remember that couple that gave our main characters a lift? Well, they just happen to have a theory as to what is happening. Their theory? Plants. Really angry plants. The plants are sick of humanity and decide to release a deadly toxin to kill everyone. And you know what our main character, who I should remind you is a teacher, has to say about this theory? Yeah, you're probably right. Plants be pissed. And that's it. That is exactly what is happening. The movie decides to reveal this fact 35 minutes into the movie and still expects the audience to be frightened by anything else in this film. I mean, by all means, you can have an environmental message and still keep some of the tension, but you probably should have found a way for characters to figure this out piecemeal instead of one character just explaining it to the audience and, again, not 35 minutes into your horror movie. Imagine how less scary a movie like, say, Christine would be if half an hour into the movie, a random mechanic just said, "Oh yeah, all these weird deaths happening in the city? Yeah, I'd put my money on it being a haunted car." So with this new hypothesis under their belt, Mark and his funky bunch head deeper into the countryside. Now, this wouldn't seem like a bad idea had the audience not just been told 90 seconds ago that plants are something you should probably try avoiding. But sure enough, after meeting up with a larger group of survivors, the deadly toxin catches up with them, and the family makes a break for it on foot to try and escape the wind, I guess? The movie makes a point to state that the virus is airborne, but can also just erupt from any old plant, so it's never really clear what the characters are trying to run to or from, but they sure do a lot of running. And really, that's what the rest of this movie is. The trio meet with a group, the group dies. They meet up with someone else, that person dies. Because they've already explained away all mystery behind what is happening, there's no need to actually figure anything out. But, because the characters and audience are introduced to this plot point early on, it does feature some great scenes, such as Mark Wahlberg trying to convince a houseplant that he and his family are harmless.
Hello? My name is Elliot Moore. I'm just going to talk in a very positive manner, giving off good vibes. We're just here to use the bathroom. And then we're just gonna leave. I hope that's okay.
Remember, many people had to look at this script before it became a multi-million-dollar movie. And none saw Mark Wahlberg arguing with a houseplant and decide to chime in with a, "You know what? Maybe this is really stupid." But maybe the mystery of this disaster movie isn't supposed to be the disaster itself. In Twister, they don't spend half the movie trying to figure out what has been killing people and destroying homes. Spoiler alert, it's a twister. So maybe the whole killer plant plot is supposed to be a vehicle for character interactions, and the tension the audience is supposed to feel is towards Elliot and Alma. We've already established their marriage is on the rocks, so maybe there's something there. And that might have worked, until you remember that would require M. Night Shyamalan understanding how basic human emotions work, which has never exactly been his strong point. Midway through the movie, Alma reveals why she has been acting strange around Elliot. She recently met up with an old friend for drinks, and unbeknownst to her, that friend was trying to pursue her romantically. Typical sitcom blunder. But here is Elliot's response to that.
If we're gonna die, I want you to know something. I was in a pharmacy a while ago. There was a really good-looking pharmacist behind the counter. Really good-looking. I went up and I asked her where the cough syrup was. I didn't even have a cough. And I almost bought it. And I'm talking about a completely superfluous bottle of cough syrup. That's like $6.
Are you joking? Thank you.
No, there's no more context to that scene. That was Elliot's way of telling Alma that he doesn't care, and that they're cool. I guess? This is the last scene where we have any suggestion their relationship is in danger, and it happens when there is still 50 minutes left in this movie. So I guess the killer plant thing is all we got. Which brings us to the finale of the movie. Now, in the climax of disaster movies, films often have to get creative. In The Day After Tomorrow, it's not like the heroes are going to stop global warming, so writers have to come up with some way to raise the personal stakes for these characters in the third act of the movie, some way that they can still achieve something while still allowing the disaster to take place. And in The Happening, it is literally humanity versus trees. And try as we might for these past few centuries, it is not a fight we are going to win anytime soon. So Elliot, Alma, and Julian's daughter take shelter in a remote home they find and literally just wait it out. When all seems lost and the couple surrenders to their fate, The Happening just stops. It's jarring, anticlimactic, and removes any agency that the main characters had in the story. As far as writing goes, it's just as dumb as the rest of the ideas in this movie. But there's a really weird part of me that gets it. Shyamalan was trying to make a disaster movie where the villain was nature itself. And throughout the story, the movie keeps making the point that even if we come to fully understand nature, nature can just as quickly wipe us out as it can sustain us. It's a pretty flowery message, all things considered, but it's one of the reasons that the movie keeps sticking in my mind, no matter how dumb it is. It doesn't try and give any explanation or science more than what most of us are already kind of thinking, which is, man, we aren't treating the environment as well as we should be. Hope that doesn't bite us in the ass. And as someone who has watched the world completely change over the past 7 months because of something that came from nature, yeah, messages like this kind of hit a little different right now. By no means am I trying to hold this movie up as some kind of environmental poster boy, carrying the message that all humanity needs to hear. Again, the main character pleads with a potted plant for multiple minutes. But I do have to respect it, taking a genre that is well worn and doing something entirely different. Making the ending as jarring and unexplained as the beginning really drives home a sense of helplessness, like the characters are just going along for the ride. It's uncomfortable, unrealistic, and you can't look away. Much like the way I assume every student feels like in a class taught by Mark Wahlberg. And that is just dumb enough for me.